Hey there guys, Noah here, welcome back to another Vanguard video. Sorry I've been gone over the last, God knows how many weeks now. Honestly, school being a pain in the butt and a lot of other personal stuff going on in my life, so it's just kind of a bit of a challenge to make content consistently. But that being said, I'm going to hopefully kind of rectify this by giving you guys an in-depth look into the current premium format going into the upcoming BCS season. In this video, I'll be discussing 3 of the best decks in the format and explain why they're strong picks going into this season, as well as some of the cards you should look out for while playing into these decks. If you're looking for a quick tier list video that goes over every client currently in the game, Devin Cassidy did a recent tier list video that I more or less kind of agree with, so if you're interested in that, I'll leave a link in the description below. As the 3 clans that he does mention are probably the best picks going into the BCS season, and they're going to be the main focus for this video. So without further ado, let's discuss my least favorite out of the bunch. Newba. Out of all the Stride deck sets released in Standard, Newba has managed to not only translate well into Premium, but be without question the best one that can utilize its Crest Maker Grade 1. The deck takes advantage of the Dominate mechanic and combines it with a myriad of strong main deck and G7 pieces to make a deck that's not only extremely difficult to stop, but it's extremely versatile depending on the matchup. The Dominate mechanic, for those of you who are unfamiliar, allows you to take control of an opponent's unit and use it to attack. This is usually done from turn 3 onward, taking advantage of Shiranui Obero's Stride Scale to dominate a rearguard to set up for the rest of your combo plays. Unlike in Standard, however, where both you and your opponent need to be on a grade 3, or have started your turn on a grade 3 to Stride, you can superior Stride while your opponent's still on grade 2 by using the on-hit Stride that released back in History Collection, to not only use your Stride skill to dominate, but also use it at the same time to fuel some of your combo pieces such as Furai, Seikai, and Verena Esperidia, to create multi-attacking scenarios where it makes it increasingly difficult to guard against. As for the main win condition, you have 2 lines of play depending on how the game plays out, and both are absolutely vile in retrospect. The first and obvious way is to win with Riku Stealth Dragon Sugimura-kan, which can force your opponent to bind every card in hand except for 4 cards. Granted, the cards that are bound or get returned back to the hand at the end of the turn. This, in turn, combined with the Stride skill and rearguards that I've previously mentioned, leads to a battle phase which is usually impossible to survive without hitting multiple damage triggers and/or OT. The other possibly deadly route that people take with this deck is also going into Shiranui Rinne and combining it with Mizukaze, which is a floodgate rearguard that acts very similarly to Hope on Damp. Mizukaze allows you to make it so that way your opponent can't guard with the same grade as the units call from hand more than once a turn. So for example, if your opponent chose to use a grade 0 from hand to pay the cost for Rinne's skill, they can't use any grade 0s to guard from their hand for any attack going forward for the rest of the turn. This is slightly harder to set up, as you not only need a grade 3 in the soul to pay for Mizukaze's skill, but nowadays your opponent can easily get around this via a combination of order cards to get around Rinne's skill, but nonetheless, it is still a strong backup combo just in case they need to rely on it. Overall, this deck is incredibly hard to play around, and as such, the only bit of advice I can give you is to make sure you prep into these combos well, either by taking out their restanders first, and or disrupting their multi-attacks. For example, using something like Honley to make them waste Counterblast faster the more they attack, or by using a G-Guardian to snipe their rearguards mid-battle can help in this matchup, but I also am aware that it very much depends on what deck you're using, so the strats I just mentioned are very matchup dependent. So with that being said, let's move on to the other 2 decks now. Granblue is the ultimate toolbox deck in the premium format right now at the time of this recording, and it's not very difficult to see why. It takes advantage of the drop zone by sending cards from the deck into the drop zone, and it then calls those cards from drop to activate effects. The main grade 3 that many people still currently use to facilitate those plays is Night Rose, which much like Shiranui has a superior Stride. Banderum at the end of battle he attacks allows you to call a card from drop and give it 2k power. This combined with cards like Beatrice, Nightstorm, G Negrabone, and Riveting Franche allows for further multi-attacking options. The main problem with the deck at large is that it goes through a large majority of its resources way too quickly. But to make up for that, they have ways to regain those resources back thanks to cards like Renache, which when hollowed at the end of the turn can countercharge 2, and combining it with Night Rose's GB2 skill, it can technically go off twice. And in case for some odd reason this wasn't enough countercharge in the deck, you can also use King Serpent to not only refuel your soul for when you use Beatrice a lot, but it also allows you to also countercharge as well. By the way, this isn't a hard once per turn, so if you time it right, these combination of cards make for insane combo plays that just makes me question why they banned Zinc in the first place, especially if Granblue could do all this bullshit. The other major issue for a deck like this is that sometimes you don't see pieces early enough to make it count. Luckily, Granblue has a way to just immediately find any piece they need to thanks to Big Obadiah. For a simple counterblast and a G-flip, you can select up to 5 cards from the deck and send them to drop, then call 2 cards for every face-up card in G-Zone and they get 5k power. Okay, I'm sorry, what? Hold the fuck on. You mean to tell me that they not only have a superior stride, but they also have a card that acts like a fusion of Monster Reborn and Painful Choice as well?
Unfortunately, that's not the worst of it.
Much like their main deck, Granblue's G-Zone is also stacked in their favor. They have Bad Bounty, which allows you to superior ride from the drop zone to make 2 Vanguard swings while also having multi-attacking options. But this is all just for setup, as their main finisher, Bartholomew, has a nasty continuous effect where if they get up to 30 cards in drop zone or more, your opponent has to guard with a total of 3 or more from hand for every attack that this effect is live. But which is kind of hard to do sometimes, but usually if they go into this, it's practically GG, without one of your damage checks being an overtrigger. On top of that, they have some of the best G-guards in the game. Orania can minus critical from your opponent's Vanguard, or attacking unit I should say, for every 10 cards in drop. Negronora can call 2 cards from drop to Guardian, and they also have a really nasty play with Negro Lily combined with Beatrice and Skeleton Cannoneer, creates a Denial Griffin play to disrupt your opponent mid-battle. Granted, it's required that you need 2 CB to activate this combo, but even if they don't do that, they can use cards like Reshade to add cards back to hand for a discard and a mill too, which also means they can recycle their heal triggers for future G-guards. Yeah, that's very annoying. They have a bunch of other stuff they can do, but my best advice while playing into this deck is 3 things. 1, don't give them any counterblast until they're riding to grade 2. The main reason is Columbard. This little guy allows you to actually counterblast to grab any 1 unit from the deck, send it to drop, and then call a card from your drop zone. You really don't want them to plus at any point that early in the game, especially if they're going first. The second bit of advice, if possible, is to make it so that way they can't use Negro Lily and Beatrice combo as easily, if at all. And lastly, pay attention to which specific pieces they have in drop. If they have Draw Engine, the ability to gain resources, or cards that allow you to combo extend, it would be advantageous to know what exactly you should be prepping in your deck, just in case you can play around it. This deck gets even crazier and stronger with the release of the Night Rose Stride deck set releasing in January, and Commander Jaime released a full video showcasing the full potential of the Crest variant in action, so I'll leave a link in the description below for that specific video as well, in case for some odd reason this combo explanation wasn't enough. So with that being said, let's discuss the last deck that's good in this format, Neonectar. So Neonectar has been an absolute terror in this format ever since Green Katrina was unbanned, and it's probably the strongest it's ever been. To start, I should mention that ever since Springfest ended, a lot has happened to position this deck to be easily one of the best decks in the format. We have a new premium Neonectar starting product, which not only means that the clan has 2 viable archetypes, but it also means that Green Katrina is more widely accessible, meaning that it's very possible that the deck will even see more usage than previously before. While Asha and Musketeers play very similarly, there are a few differences to better fit certain play styles depending on how the deck is built. The one thing that's common is their main stride what they combo off of, which is of course Katrina. Katrina can call up to 1 plant token for every face-up card in G-Zone, and she allows those plant tokens to get plus 10. This is usually combined with Storm Element Cyclone, which allows you to give cards without abilities plus 5k for each copy of him face-up in the G-Zone. So essentially, when you go into Katrina initially, that's essentially a plus 15k for all plant tokens because they have no skills. She also, when attacking, can call cards from the deck for each plant token on the field, which this is where things get a bit interesting. For Asha, they can call Hanali to make multi-attacking hard for your opponent, or even call more tokens thanks to cards like Sylvia, Flower Carpet, and Horticulture Elf. They also have ways to directly search for their perfect cards and add them back to hand thanks to Liliga. As for the Musketeer route, however, they're going to most likely combo with Cecilia Reverse, which also allows for more extra Vanguard attacks and potential extra Rearguard attacks as well. So before you can go ahead and sit there and think you can just retire the Cecilia Reverse before they activate the skill, there's a grade 2 Musketeer that allows to give itself and another unit resist. So that option is most likely going to be off the table unless you somehow manage to damage check them all. Unlike the other two decks, however, Neonectar, to my knowledge, has no easy way to disrupt during your opponent's turn outside of using the Progenitor Dragon, so my best advice is to either find ways around the multi-attacking, or to guarantee that you have a hand to survive the Katrina push turn in the late game. As you can see, these decks are absolutely busted in their own way, and I could definitely see a world where the decks in question just continue to get better and better with future releases, assuming they don't go ahead and ban it in the near future. But with that being said, that's going to do it for this video. Until next time, this is Noah, and I'll see you guys later. Bye everyone.